Everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. So here today we are going to be looking at the class Insecta, which is a subclass of the Phylum Arthropoda. So what is this about? So in our previous video we talked about arthropods, and arthropods are all these. We have the shrimp there, we have the spider, we have the centipedes, we have all these. We have the millipedes, we have the bees, among other things. So now, this can further subdivided into classes. So today we are going to be looking at what we call the class Insecta, which the example here is a butterfly or the bees, like that. So now what are they made up of? So the class Insecta is made up of 3 pairs of legs. So that's why they are called hexapoda. Remember, hexa means 6 legs. So hexa simply means 6, then poda means leg. So that's why we say that they have 3 pairs. So a pair is 2 legs. So they have 3 pairs of legs. So that's the characteristics of insects. So their body is made up of the head. Let's use a structure. So their body is made up of the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. So this is the structure of insects. So this is the structure: the head, the thorax, and the abdomen, like that. So that's basically the structure: head, thorax, and abdomen. So this is the abdomen. We have the thorax, we have the head. Now we can further look at what does the head have. But one important thing is, before we move on to that, they are mostly terrestrial, which means to say they are found on land. So they are mostly terrestrial. Now the other important thing that you must know is that some of them have wings, others do not. For example, we have some ants that have wings, others do not have wings. Now the head of insects is made up of, we have the antennas, which are these structures, we have the eyes, like that, and we have the mouth part, which is used for chewing. So the head is made up of the antennas, the eyes, and the mouth. So this is the head region. Now when we look at the mouth, the structures are different. Like for example, their mouth parts are modified for, number 1, chewing. So their mouth parts are used for chewing. When you look at an example, we have the grasshopper. So the grasshopper has a mouth that is used for chewing. Others, like the mosquitoes, they have parts that are used for piercing. So the mosquito will pierce you, then start to suck your blood. Other examples that we might have that have mouth parts that are able to pierce are the flies, which cause trypanosomiasis. So we have the mosquito, we have the other thing there. Some of them have got tapping mouth parts. So the tapping mouth parts, so these the example that we can have is the housefly. So you can see the housefly, how when it is on a host or a human, it is able to tap its mouth like that. So that's basically it. Now let's look at the thorax. So the thorax region is divided into the prothorax, the mesothorax, and the metathorax, as shown in the diagram. So this is what we refer to as the prothorax, the mesothorax, and the metathorax. So just look at the alphabet for mesothorax. So this S, like that. So we have the meso and we have the meta. So as you know, S comes before T, so we begin with our S, then we go to our T like that. Then we know that pros always have to be in front, so we have the prothorax and the mesothorax and the metathorax. So together they form the thorax region of the insect. So now each part of the insect, or each part of the thorax, has got legs. So we have these legs like that. Then even for here we should have these legs, as you can see. Then finally we are going to have the final legs at the metathorax like that. Now, what are the functions? Okay, first, before that, when you look here, the prothorax do not have wings. Then the mesothorax have got wings, which we call the forewings. The word "fore" simply means to say in front. So we have front wings called the forewings. Then the back wings are called the hind wings. So we have the hind wings like that. So that is basically how the structure of the insect thorax is like that. Now, likewise, the function of these structures is the forewings have got strong flight limbs, and as well as generally they have strong flight muscles. Now, when you look at the legs, the hind legs, these the back legs, these are used for leaping, so they will be able to jump. So in other words, they are used for jumping. So that is the main function. So this is how it is divided. Remember, insects have got 3 pairs of legs, so that means 6. So we have the first pair, the second pair, which is this one and this one. The third pair is these big ones, this one and this one. So 6 legs like that. Likewise, the final part of the insect is what we call the abdomen. So the abdomen mostly have got 11 segments. So these 11 segments, the 10th and 11th segment are specialized to form what we call cerci. So these cerci, so as you can see, mostly have 11, but the 10 and 11th are modified to form the region which we call cercus, if it is just one, but if there are a lot, we call cerci. So these cerci are useful in defensive mechanisms if it wants to fight against the predators. So it will be able to also help the insects be able to sense the approaching predators. So these are able to also detect the vibrations, to see the change in the vibration of the organisms that are moving. So this is the abdomen, 11 appendages, or rather, sorry, not 11 appendages, but 11 segments. The 10th and the 11th segment is modified to form cerci. So this cerci is useful in defense, detection of predators, among other things. So this important detail is important, and also the prothorax, mesothorax, and the metathorax is very important. Just to recap, the prothorax do not have any wings. They have the first pair of legs. Then the mesothorax have got the 4 wings, meaning the in front. 4 means in front. When we say forehead, it means in front. Then we have the hind wings, the ones that are found at the back like that. Then we have to the metathorax, we have the hind legs that are attached. These legs are used for leaping, to be able to jump over long distances. You can even see how strong their muscles are. So that's that. Let's move on to other things. The diagrams are very important and you must know how to draw them, especially the leg of an insect. So the leg of an insect we are going to have basic structures such as the trochanter, the coxa, we are going to have the tibia and the femur. Now let's look at the diagram. So this is the diagram. We have the coxa, we have the trochanter, which is the separation between the femur and the coxa. Then we have the tibia, we have the tarsus, we have the curls there. So basically the tibia will have mostly spikes. If we look at another diagram, so it will have mostly spikes like that. The tarsus are there. Then we have the femur. It will have the muscles, the strong muscles. But for the sake of the exam, this diagram is enough. The femur, the tibia, the trochanter, the coxa, and the tarsus. So know how to draw this structure. So drawing the femur, we know the femur is what forms the thigh. Then we have the tibia, then the layer in between. So this must be the coxa. Then here we have the trochanter. So this is our trochanter. Yeah, so this is basically it for the insect's structure, or rather the leg. So the leg is very important. They will ask you during an exam. So this is how you draw the leg of an insect. Now what are their functions? So the coxa. So the coxa is used for the attachment of the thorax. So as you can see, like where's that image? Okay, so if you have, so this is the as you can see, this is the coxa. So the coxa is useful in the attachments to the thorax. Remember, this structure is the thorax. So the coxa, or rather the coxa, will attach to the thorax. So the other function of the coxa is that when it attaches, it also allows movement of the whole leg. So because it is attached, it will be able to allow the movement of the whole leg. Then the trochanter. So remember, the trochanter is the layer between. So if we have, let's say this is the coxa, the trochanter will be there. So the trochanter is useful in the connection of the coxa, which you can already see, and the femur. So the femur and the coxa are attached by a layer that we refer to as the trochanter. So this trochanter is useful as it forms a small joint. So as you can see, due to this small joint, it also helps in the flexing and bending of the insect. So flexing and bending. So flexing, we are referring to basically just changing the shape. If it's like this, sometimes it can be straightened like that. So that is what we call flexing, and generally bending of the insect's leg. The insect can bend as much as this, so it can be able to bend like that. So this is helped by the trochanter like that. As you can see, the trochanter will be able to accommodate that type of action. So the other part, which is our femur contains very, I would say, large muscles. So these muscles are there to help in jumping. So these muscles, we know the function of muscles. So they are helpful in, number one, jumping, and also it provides strength for force movement. So it is where the strength will come from to leap very high like that. Then the other part is what we call the tibia. So the tibia is used in walking and running. It is also useful in defense. So as you can see, it is used in defense. It even has got spikes. Then the tarsus acts as a foot of the insect's leg. So this acts as a foot like that. So that is basically the parts. So how can you remember the parts? So we have this mnemonic: cool teachers find the tests too. So this one, in which this is the coxa. If you're beginning from the coxa, which is attached to the thorax, then the teacher will be the trochanter, trochanter. We have F is the femur. We have the tests, which will act as our tibia. Then we have our two, which will act as our tarsals, like that. So these are the structures. So this is what we have, not tarsals but tarsals. So we have the tarsals, the tibia, the fibia, the trochanter here. Then we are going to have the costa there. The other important detail about the abdomen is that it houses the digestive, respiratory, and the nervous system. So this is where we find the digestive. So the abdomen is where we find the digestive. We have the nervous system, and we have the other one which we have talked about, which is the respiratory. So all these are found respiratory. All these are found in the abdomen. So basically, those are the parts of the insects. Now we are going to look at the orders. Before we wrap up this video, we are going to look at the orders of insects. Very important and very examinable. Okay, so for the orders of insects, we are going to look at them in another video. See you in that video, where I simplify how you can easily remember them.